Hey everybody, welcome to Delandisworld. Welcome back to my channel. Today I want to talk about the most common questions that I would get at the stage door. So one of the most common questions that I would get would be, how long have you been performing? Actually, Morgan Freeman asked that question too. And I would say I started performing professionally in summer 2000, and I went to New York for the summer, and I did my first show, which was the Chris Rock show. Now, I've always been a performer, so I mean, I was yay high singing and dancing and doing musical theater and going to camps and stuff like that, so I have been performing for a long time. The next question that I would always get is, what's your second job? Now, I always laugh at this one because my question is always to them, when do I have time to actually do anything else when I'm doing a show like this? So if you don't know, when you are doing a production contract, which is like a Broadway contract, that's your job. That's your only job. You don't have to do anything else because you make money. So yeah, you know, different shows, different contracts, so it could be different for any show, but when you are doing, when I was in Wicked, when I was doing a production contract in that show, that was my job. That was my only job. So yeah, you don't have time for second jobs. Well, unless you're like shooting a commercial or you book another gig, that's a quick gig, but yes, that's your main job. So yes, you can make a living off of doing shows on Broadway. So this is the question that I love, so I'm gonna let you guys in on a little secret. A lot of times, you guys are already in the theater before the actors even get there. Normally, we have to be at the theater for a half hour, which is 30 minutes before the show starts, or 30 minutes before curtain. So if they're going to open the house 45 minutes, you're probably sitting in the audience before I even get there. Now, you can get to the theater as early as you want to usually, but I would always say I was always strolling in right at half hour. And within that half hour, you have to do your stretching, your vocal warm-ups, get your microphones. What else do we do? I don't know, chit-chat, catch up on the gossip, all that stuff, and yeah, get dressed and be at places within 30 minutes. So again, a lot of times you guys are already in the theater before we even get there. This one I love as well because I just did a video on my Wicked experience. So if you have not checked that video out, go check that one out. This question is, do you get along with your castmates? Now, just like any friendship, just like any family, there's always something going on, right? And when you spend so much time with people, yeah, the answer is yes. And sometimes the answer is no. So yeah, I mean, when you do shows like this and when you're doing long running shows and you are in this dark room with everyone for a long time and you've spent many years with the same people, yeah, of course you're going to have, you know, moments. But I will say, you know, when you really think about it, we are family. We come together on holidays and do potlucks and stuff like that. So yeah, sometimes you get along, sometimes you don't, just like any other family. How often or how long do you rehearse the show? Well, I'm gonna go back to rehearsals when I start shows. Normally when I've done a show, my rehearsal process before we get into running the show or going into tech rehearsal, usually those rehearsals are at least a month, okay? Now, once you get into rehearsals, before you go into the theater, you go into tech rehearsals, and those can be from a week to 2 weeks. It just depends on how long your tech is. And then you go into previews, which is still kind of like a rehearsal. You're still running the show, and you know, things could change during previews depending on how the audience reacts to it. But yeah, so you know, we rehearse for a good bit before the show opens. Now, when the show does open, you have to keep the show nice and fresh, and you have to keep it clean. I did not understudy anyone, so I didn't have to rehearse as much as people who did understudy people, because when you are understudying a character, you have to go in and rehearse another role. So a lot of times while people were in rehearsals, I was at home sleeping, doing whatever I needed to do for the day. And yeah, you know, while some understudies were rehearsing their roles just in case, you know, they went on. So when you have creatives in, that means the big wigs, when they're in and they're watching the show or cleaning the show or coming in for something, then, you know, yes, that's when you come into rehearsals and you're spending the whole day. I mean, sometimes we would get there, at 10 o'clock, 10:30, and we would be there all day until the evening show. And sometimes if there was a change in the show, you would have to incorporate those changes that night. I would say maybe every couple of months I would go in for a creative rehearsal. Now, if you were doing a put-in rehearsal, which means any ensemble member that's going in, or if you have a new cast member, we would call those put-in rehearsals. We would have all the ensemble members come to the theater and we would put the new person into the show, which was cool because if you understudied the role, you would probably step into the principal role when we were doing the put-in for the ensemble member. Now, if you're doing a put-in for a principal person, then everybody would be in, and because you have to support that actor, and they have to know how the show runs. So, put-in rehearsals can be all day, just like creative rehearsals. We can start rehearsals at 10:30, and we have a break, for lunch. Come back again, then we do a show that night. So yeah, we have put-in rehearsals, we have just rehearsals for when creatives come in, we have understudy rehearsals. So there are so many rehearsals. Once we get this show started, you don't stop rehearsing, because just imagine if you got comfortable doing a show and you got lazy, the show suffers. So yeah, a part of all of these rehearsals is to keep the show fresh in our mind, to keep us constantly working on our craft, to constantly working on cleaning the show. Because I will tell you, when you've been doing a show for 2.5 years, you kind of get a little lazy sometimes. You kind of get relaxed, and oftentimes I always felt like I was on autopilot. So sometimes it's good to have a rehearsal to kind of just knock you back into place and to kind of get you going again. So yeah, good question. How long does it take you to warm up? So that kind of goes along with my previous question that I answered about getting to the theater 30 minutes before the show. Now, I don't know. I'm going to be honest. I know it's not good. I'm going to be honest about this. I didn't always warm up like I should have, and as much as I've danced in shows, sometimes you come into the theater and you're like, okay, stretch, stretch, stretch. But when you are a dancer in a show and you really have to dance for 2 hours and 45 minutes, it's really important that you do stretch. So I would say getting there a half hour, doing at least a 20-minute, 25-minute stretch before you go on stage is probably appropriate, especially if you're doing shows like Lion King. I mean, those shows are so dance heavy. As far as warming up, I would do some of that before I left the house. So I would vocalize before I left home. I would do that in the car if I was driving. Yeah, so I would try to warm up the voice because I had issues in this show. I had major vocal cord surgery in my last show, Wicked. And so I tried my absolute best to make sure when I did get my voice back to warm up, to make sure that I'm working safely, because that's very important. Because if you know Wicked, if you know the music is very high and we're singing up there. Even the baritones were singing up there. So you really have to warm up the voice. So yeah, I would say warm up as much as possible. It's really important, because if you don't, then you're going to risk having injuries. Okay. Do you have to work out a lot to be in a show? Yes, because when you are dancing every single day, you have to condition the body. If you're not working out, if you're not conditioning the body, you can risk injuring yourself. So yes, it's very important that you work out. I would try to do yoga before I went to the theater. Now, yoga is especially the yoga that I took, it was very intense. So I had to change it up a little bit because I found myself being very exhausted when I went to the theater. So yeah, I would do some running, I would do some cardio, lightweight, because I was always picking people up in this show, so I didn't want to risk injuring my arms or anything, or being so exhausted that I couldn't do a lift in the show. Yeah, so it's really important that you work out and you stay conditioned. Just like anything, as a dancer, you are an athlete, right? As a singer, same thing. You have to work out, which kind of leads me to my next question that I would always get is, do you have to take voice lessons, or how often do you take voice lessons? I took voice lessons when I was in Chicago doing Wicked for one big reason is because I was having issues and I needed to address those issues vocally, and I also was having therapy as well. So yes, I think that it's important that you keep learning and you keep practicing. That's your practice, because once you get into a show and you're singing the same show every day, you start to leave everything else behind, and so you become a little lopsided. So it's always important that you keep working on new material, and also too, you may go on another audition. So you want to keep things fresh in your mind. So yes, it's very important that you keep warming up and you keep practicing, you keep having your voice lessons. All of this works together because it's all a part of our jobs, right? It's all a part of our jobs that we keep ourselves fresh and that we're ready to perform our show. Okay, so this is a good one. Is it always fun, or is it fun to perform every single night? Short answer, no. Just like any job, and yes, it is a job, you get tired, you get exhausted, you need time off. And when you're entertaining an audience, you have to be a certain way. When you are developing a character, it's tough. It's tough to stay in that character every single night. So no, it's not always fun, but again, it's what you sign up for. We try to make it as fun as possible. Do we want you to enjoy the show? Do we want you to have fun? Absolutely. So a part of being an actor is acting, right? So of course, it's not always fun, but we want you to have a great time and a great experience. Now, I will say when it is fun, it's really fun when you have friends in the audience. That's when it's fun, because you want to show out a little bit. You want to kind of, hey, look at me. We would always say that anytime someone had a friend in the show, look at so-and-so, they all over that stage tonight. Look at her, look at her, look at him. He's performing tonight. So of course, you know, we want to have a good time when your friends are there. You want to celebrate that experience. So the quick answer is no, it's not always fun, but it can also be a great experience. Absolutely. This next question I thought about a lot because I often found myself being very lonely when I was doing a show, 8 shows a week. Do you have time to spend with your friends? When do you make time for your friends? You know, when you do a show like this and you're working at night, your schedule is always different from everyone else's, right? People work during the day normally and they come home at night and you're going to work. On the weekends, you're working, they are partying, celebrating, doing whatever they do. So it's not always easy to spend time with friends because when you are finished on your Saturday night show and you want to go out and have a little cocktail, you're tired, you're exhausted, so you may not want to go out. So it is hard when you are on a different schedule and you can't always see your friends the way that you want to. One of the biggest things that I craved when I was leaving my last show is that I cannot wait to be on the same schedule that my friends are, so that I can actually go to dinner and go out on Saturdays and not have to finish the show at 11 o'clock at night and then drag myself out to wherever we're gonna meet. So it's tough. It can be done, but it's tough to spend time with friends. So yes, it's tough. Okay, so have you ever had a real job? A real job? What does that mean, right? Of course, you know, performing is a real job. Although some people may not think so, yeah, performing is a real job. When you get paid for it, especially on this level, it's a real job. Have I had an office job? I've had little small things here and there. When I was in college, I worked in the band office. But I've never really had, other than teaching. Yes, I've always taught. I still teach. Other than teaching, I've never had like a sit at the desk type of, you know, job. I have my own kids company now where I have programs in the schools and I teach, you know, fitness classes and stuff like that. So yes, I've had real jobs, but I've never had jobs, if you mean by real jobs, jobs like sitting at a desk or corporate jobs like that. No, I've never had corporate jobs. Okay, so this next question always came with an added extra little question on the end of it. So the question would be, how long did it take me to get to where I am, especially in that place I was when I was doing the show? And so the next question to follow that up would always be, how long do you think it would take me to get to where you are? So look, here it is. Everyone's journey is different. You're never ever going to have the same experience that someone is. Sometimes it happens quick for people, sometimes it happens later for people. I will say that I was very blessed early on when I started my career as an entertainer. I moved to New York and I was in my first big show, George C. Wolfe's Harlem Song, within a year and a half of being there. Now, that's a very, very short time, especially when you're going into a big city and you're going into a city with so many brilliant actors and dancers and singers and whatever, you know. that's a huge feat, and I was so blessed when I had this opportunity. It happened for me quickly early on in my career, and even when I moved out to LA, I had my first television role my first week of being in LA. So hey, I am very blessed. I never took that lightly because I know that it takes so much longer for some other people. As far as when I moved to LA and Wicked came to me, it was, I think, within 2 years of living in LA that I got Wicked and I left to go do Wicked. So I think, again, everyone's journey is different. It did not take me as long as others when I first started out. But after that, you know, there's been a moment in my career to where it's like, okay, now it's time to work again. Okay, next job, when is it coming? But like any entertainer, you keep, you know, within those times, you keep honing your craft, like you keep singing, you keep practicing, you keep doing all the other stuff, so you are ready and prepared for the next big thing that comes your way. I will say that a couple of weeks ago, I was very blessed that I shot on this FX TV show. Actually, my birthday week. I don't want to say the name yet because it has not aired. But yeah, those opportunities come and it's such a blessing. Yeah, so I think that we're all on our own timeline, and you have to understand that there are going to be times that you're working, there are going to be times that you may not be working. You may just stop short of that blessing. Okay, I'm going to end with this question. What is it like being a part of a huge show like this? And I'm going to specifically speak about Wicked, because when I did Wicked, it was such a huge show. I mean, to be in that show, we were instant celebrities. I tell you, we had so many fans and so many people that appreciated and loved the show. So, of course, being in a show like Wicked, the accolades, the wonderful people at the stage door that you meet, and one thing about me is when I step outside that stage door, this is for the people. I want to make sure I speak to every single person and to acknowledge, to thank them for coming to see my show, to see my art. So it was amazing to be in a show like that, and I think sometimes it's a little surreal. My first show that I did was George C. Wolfe's Harlem Song in New York, and when I saw the first billboard like on the train, I was like, look at this is our show. You want to shout out and you want to tell everybody, hey, I'm in this show, I'm in this show. So yeah, you know, when you are in a show like this, you just have so much pride, you have so much, you love your show, and when you see these billboards out there, it just, you feel good, you want everyone to know that you are a part of that show. So to answer that question, it feels amazing to be in a huge show. It's almost like, can I really recreate this experience? Can I really, you know, what's gonna be my next big thing? So I think that's the only thing. You compete against yourself, you compete against your next great thing, but it's amazing, and I'm so blessed to have been a part of these wonderful shows. Thank you, everyone. I want to know your show experience. I want to know if you guys have any questions for me. What questions you may have that I did not answer. If you are not a subscriber, please consider subscribing to my channel and pressing that bell notification so whenever I post new videos, you know that I've posted. I will see you guys next time. Love you. Bye.